Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. This is Tanya Aarons coming to you from Brisbane, Australia. I look a bit haggard, don't I? It's the 11th of February 2023, 10:30 a.m. I've just got out of bed. I've only had just under 5 hours sleep. I'm making this video because it was a very intense night last night at the casino, and yesterday I was beset with a very persistent and it was a very unsettled, persistent feeling of threat. And I have been predicting for some time that I'm in some danger, and that there's been an intensifying, to quote an old war trope, intensifying in orders of magnitude in recent months. And I thought it had to do with my, feelings of abandonment, marginalisation, isolation, and hurt, long-standing hurt over the way former friends and lovers have treated me over the years. And I thought it was to do with that, because one of my former lovers has decided to play. He's done it before. It's trivial in the broad scheme of things, but play silly little trickster games on the West End drumming group on Facebook. You know, nothing to worry about, just pressing buttons and faking being interested in things, because he knows it rattles me, because he knows I still have feelings for him. So since before Christmas, I've been intuiting this man, and I thought, well, this just has to stop, doesn't it? It's just not rational. A man who was never interested in me in real life, and just used to come for years, come to the casino, and he would peer at me with one eye, in the crowd, or bring floozies and just smugly glare at me. It was awful. It was awful how he behaved. But I have been intuiting him for on and off now for months, and I've been pushing it away because it's not rational, and it's not good for me. I need to move on and find a real love. A man who's genuine and sweet and kind and authentic and decent and honourable, who stands by my side with dignity and pride and treats me like a woman that he is delighted to have in his life, and treats me with respect, right? What every woman the entire world over craves, desires: a sweet but strong, loving, loyal, faithful man, right? Something I've never had in my entire life. I mean, my husband, when I was married as a young girl, was faithful, as far as I could tell. Not always. I mean, he used to be a bit seedy and make seedy comments about other women, but as far as I can tell, he wasn't throwing his leg over and being treacherous like that. But he was treacherous in so many other ways, including with my own mother, that it was very, very damaging. And even after over 2 decades of therapy, I'm still not really over it. So there's that. But anyway, purpose of this video. As I've gotten older, I've become more psychic. So I have to trust in my own intuitions now, that when I sense that I'm getting some form of telepathy or some form of energy connection from this former lover, that it is real. It's real to me. It's real to my spirit. It doesn't mean that I pick up the phone and ring him anymore like I used to. When I used to get these intense vibes, I would think, what the fuck is going on? And I would become, alarmed. And I would ring him and I would say, hey, how's everything going? And we'd have a lovely chat sometimes. It's very pleasant. But I had to refrain from doing that because it's keeping a dead relationship alive, and it's one-sided. He's never returned the calls. He's never made an effort to be with me in any real way, except for keeping an eye on me over the years, which, has stopped, apart from this poking me like a dying bear in a cave somewhere with this stupid thing he does with Facebook with the drumming circle. And honestly, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, yesterday I had the most intense energies directed to me, and it felt like a warning. It felt like an SOS signal, and I was so tempted to call him because I thought there's something really, really wrong here. But I said to myself, my rational, pragmatic self said, so you pick up these spiritual energies and messages and intuitions from people, but it's not necessarily that person. It can sometimes be someone connected to them that has the same name or same, star sign or some same kind of energy. And I can sometimes get it a bit wrong, So I said to myself, who else could this possibly be that's sending out these vibes, right? And I decided that it might be my doctor, who's been very unwell, and I'm very attuned to him too. Because we've been in therapy together. He's been my therapist for 12 years. So we do have a bit of, we do have a very real psychic bond. But nothing of the magnitude that I have with this other awful broken love affair that never turned into anything nice, right? It was always churning around, cyclic, toxic, like living in a puddle of mud. And the women that he used to trawl to hurt me, one of them was a former friend who I actually looked after for 5 days when she was blind, okay? When she had a astigmatism and had to have an eye surgery. I was very kind to that woman. So it made it even more repulsive, the way they would just flaunt and be cruel. And even my Irish friend Karen at the time said, they're trying to kill you, Tanya. They're trying to kill you. They hope that you will just crawl away in suicide with the intense, constant grief. And I pushed that aside too. But you know what? Hindsight 2020. Literally 2020, I had a lot of hindsight, with our COVID paradigm. I had a lot of deep thinking to do. And Karen was right. They were and are trying to kill me, even sending their toxic little energies, like vermin. So anyway, I know this sounds mad to the uninitiated, but I have a very highly attuned bullshit antenna from decades of trauma. So here's how I know that I'm not mad, right? I'll get to the point. Yesterday I was feeling intensely threatened and uneasy. And look, I just had my stitches out. Look at that. So sore, and it's itching now. And I get traumatised by going to that skin doctor. He's very thorough and does a very good job. But he's a bit sadistic. I find him a bit sadistic. But I find most doctors now a bit sadistic, especially after the intense surgeries I had, the last one, 2019, where I nearly died. Because they have to be so detached from any real empathy because they literally, they're digging into your body and ripping out organs. So that they're pushing through these doctors now that are so detached from reality, they can cut into you and you're just flesh. You're barely human. You're barely a person with feelings and spirit and mind, and so it's also a very alienating, hostile, threatening feeling for me to put my body into the care of someone that's going to slice bits out, and that was necessary. Skin cancers have to go, but to be sliced and diced now, I feel deeply triggered and traumatized. And at almost 58, that's going to be an ongoing refrain, right? The skin cancers are going to keep coming, and anyway, it's a necessary evil. But I thought my mood disorder yesterday, because it wasn't like a very bad mood disorder, was because that I had to go to the skin doctor to have the stitches out, which is nothing. It just stings a little bit, and pull it out. It takes 2 minutes and you're out, But my emotions and my spirit was just churning and churning, and I thought, oh dear God. And it's been very hot. We've had a very hot heat wave here in Brisbane, Australia. So I thought, oh, it's the heat, and you're triggered because, you have to subject yourself again, to having this treatment. And the doctor last time I went was very, very warm and friendly, but this time he was cold as the grave. Just sit down, whipped out, And that's fine. He doesn't have to be my new best friend, he's got a job to do. So, anyway, so I drove over there. The appointment was at 1, and I had felt really mentally unwell and unsettled and triggered since I got up at 8:30 yesterday, right? So anyway, I jump in the car, I go over to this doctor, Annalie, and I sit there and go, and he rips out the stitches, throws me out. Said there was the results came back clear, so that's fine. All this massive big scar for something that wasn't even really a cancer, but still it had to go. It was constantly irritating me and flaking, and I was picking at it and I couldn't. It was just so uncomfortable. So that will heal, but now it's irritating because it's itchy now, because it's healing. So anyway, I sat after I finished with that doctor. I sat in his car park in my car to gather my thoughts. And I thought, oh, well, I had the air conditioning on in the car, so it was a little bit more pleasant. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll drive to Browns Plains Recycling Centre, which is half an hour's drive away. I want to buy another square little pond thing. It's actually a square shower stall, because that one leaks and I've had to put a liner in it. So I'm obsessing about that, right? So I want to get a new second-hand one that's not full of holes. So I was sitting in the car park and I'm scrolling through Facebook Marketplace and all the recycling centres. One in Acacia Ridge isn't open till today, Saturday. And the other one was open, but I had to go all the way to Browns Plains. And I haven't been there in many years, actually. And so I sat there and I thought, oh, do I go? I didn't have much petrol. And I thought, oh, well, I've got to get petrol. I'll go and get something to eat. Because I thought, I'm so unsettled all day, this feeling of imminent danger. I thought, well, I'll get something to eat and might settle my nerves. So Hungry Jack's is right next door. Not the best food choice for someone who's just had cancers taken out. Speaking of, I'm going to have a bite now. Oh, did you see that beautiful butterfly? Oh, look. How beautiful. So anyway, I went to Hungry Jack's, I got my food, I gobbled it down. I was really hungry, I didn't realise. And I drove to get petrol, at Stones Corner, but the service station there is demolished. And this annoys me. I've had this a few times in recent weeks. I go to petrol stations that I know of and that I'm comfortable in going to, and they're gone. It's bulldozed completely out. So then I thought, oh well, I'll have to drive further. I went to Coorparoo, filled up my car. Didn't fill it completely, but I put $50 in it, which I normally only spend 40 on petrol. So the car got petrol, and the anxiety wouldn't leave me, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, you've got petrol. If you wanted to, you could drive to Browns Plains. Your stitches are out. You're safe. Everything's sweet. What's wrong with you, Tanya? What's wrong with me, indeed? So, rest of the afternoon and evening, I came home. I came straight home because I was so unsettled mentally. I thought, you need to stay home. You need to be home, safe, with your little dog and your little bird. I came home and I lay on the bed, and Bobo climbed up on the bed and smothered me with doggy kisses, licking my face. And I said to myself, well, that's just lovely, isn't it? And but it was Friday night, and I go dancing on Friday night, and I did hesitate. I thought maybe I shouldn't go dancing because I expect Dave to show up, because I've been feeling this intense energy coming from him for well over, since before Christmas now. But on and off I've been feeling it over the years. It comes and goes in waves. It can be intense for a while, and then it'll settle down again, and then it builds and builds. And honestly, I think it's just me being lonely. Maybe it's just my stuff and has nothing to do with him. Let's be fair. Let's be rational about it. But I still have that feeling that it is him, because on my video that I made a month ago, where I went on and on and on about some horrible dream I had about members of the Jewish community being toxic, and a former lover that's dead now that haunted me for 4 nights when he died, and I mentioned him in the video, and then I segued into mentioning this Dave personage, because I actually said, why the fuck would I want you? Well, why would you want a man who only played cruel sadomasochistic games with your heart and mind, right? Why would you? It's dangerous. And Karen's right. It did almost bring me to the brink of suicide in 2015. So that did happen. And he was part of that. And I acknowledge that it wasn't good for me, the way I was being maligned and slandered and backstabbed and humiliated. For what? I'm a loving, kind woman who deserves to be treated with honour, integrity and respect, and basic care, basic duty of care, right? So anyway, the love I feel for this man has not died. It has not diminished. I thought I had pushed it away over the last few years. I thought I was getting better, and it flares up from time to time like a bushfire. So anyway, I'm in the midst of the bushfire now, the imminent threat, and the orders of magnitude are escalating now. So I went dancing last night, determined, even though my radar and my intuition was twanging off the Richter scale, I went dancing because that is my joy, my zest for life, my triumph, my overcoming my ancient traumas, and just my living, my best life. And I sometimes have to force myself out when I'm not feeling mentally, I'm not unstable, but when I'm feeling under threat like that, I have to push myself out into the world. Because if I stop living my life every time I felt under threat. I'd never get out of bed. I'd hang myself, literally would hang myself. And we've been down that pathway where I used to lie in bed for 20 hours a day, macked out on psychiatric medications. And we've had the suicide attempt. So we know that that doesn't change anything, and that's no way to live your life. The only way to live your life is to grab it by the proverbial balls and live it as unapologetically and as joyfully and as determinedly as you possibly can. But it took that suicide attempt in 2015 for me to reclaim me. And my friends, that was not an accident. That was literally a gift from the gods. They literally downloaded me when I was in that fugue state for a day. I was strengthened and brought back to life and gifted a whole other life that I'm only starting to see manifest really in the last couple of years with the silversmithing. After that dreadful surgery where I nearly died, I became even more determined to live a full and vibrant life for however long the gods have allotted to me on this planet. And no one knows how long that might be. It could be weeks, it could be months, it could be decades. I don't know. I know that I'm very strong in my core, that my spirit is extremely powerful, and when I make my mind up to truly, vibrantly, unapologetically live, I've created miracles for myself that have even astonished my own being. Hello, little Charlie. So Mama T, the psychedelic dreamer, Tanya, went dancing last night. And there was a lovely band on, Maori people called Vibes. They played mostly R&B and, the usual pop songs. They were quite good. I enjoyed them. And of course the DJ came on later. And anyway, so I had a lovely time dancing. And towards later on in the night, this man arrived, and I was watching him carefully, because I'm very hyper vigilant. And he seemed a nice man. He seemed very shy. It took him several hours to even start dancing. He sat, and he mainly just sat, folded his arms and watched and looked at the crowd and observed everybody, and I thought he seemed sweet. He seemed very shy. And of course I'm on my spot, my usual spot, dancing as fast as I can, crazily as I do. And this lovely younger Thai woman, I think she's Thai, was sitting with an Indian gentleman. Well, they were just staring at me pointedly like this, and I thought it was a bit rude actually. And then she turned to the Indian guy and said something, and they both looked at me. Anyway, and then she sort of motioned over to me. They weren't sitting too far. So I came to talk to them. And she says, "Would you like a drink?" And, I'd had a couple of drinks because my beautiful Sally bought me a drink. And, but by this time I was a bit thirsty again. This is like, been dancing for a few hours. I said, "Oh, yes, please, it's very kind of you." So she turned to the Indian man. She said, "Go and buy her a drink." And the way she did it, like he was some kind of dog, right? And then I was like, well, this is awkward, because I do not like people, although a lot of people think I'm a dominatrix because I'm powerful and I'm strong and I'm a feminist and I from decades of trauma have a finely honed sense of justice, and I come across as very dominant, which is a little bit of my way how I self-protect myself. I come across as my psychiatrist puts it, as armoured, he calls it, and I am. I'm very armoured, very much in my Boadicea persona when I'm at the casino, because it can be a dangerous, toxic place. Even though there's security around, I can have this imminent sense of threat that I will sometimes subsume or consume and push away. And in a way, it's a good training ground for me to manage my own emotions. Well, it has been over the years. So what happened? So she orders this Indian gentleman that was sitting with her to go and buy me a drink. And he did. He got up. He sort of looked at me and glared a bit, like, I'm thinking, Jesus, if it hurts that much, don't buy me the fucking drink. But I didn't want to make a scene, right? And I was curious to see what was going on here. I actually worried that she was setting me up with him, that she didn't want him. She was hoping to flick me off on him. And I might be a little bit right there. There was a little bit of some kind of weird vibe there. So anyway, he goes and he gets the drink and he brings it back to me, hands it to me. I said, thank you very much. And I thanked the lady. Her name's Kimmy. Thanked her very much. And I said, I'll sit with you, because it was a polite thing to do. They just bought me a drink. And she said, I work for the Department of Education. I said, that's a very important job. She said, yes, it is. It's a very good job. And then later on, she decompensated a bit. She said, why do people treat me like shit? I said, who's treating you like shit? I said, I haven't treated you like shit. This man hasn't treated you like shit. I said, in fact, he wants to be your boyfriend. She says, yes, he does. And she sort of glared at him. And he's looking at me. He said, yes, I want to be her boyfriend. I really like her. And I'm like, awkward. So she said, I don't want anybody, and why am I always treated like shit? I said, who's treating you like shit? The people in my job treat me like shit. And she was deeply unhappy. I could see she was on the brink of some kind of breakdown. And I said to her, you are queen of your own life. I said, look how you ordered this man to buy me a drink. I said, you are the queen. You need to own your own queen. I said, do not allow anyone to treat you like shit. I said, when you are in the job, I said, do what you did tonight. Say, go do this, go do that. I said, take no shit. Own your own authority. You are very much a powerful woman. She said, oh, thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. Anyway, Indian guy starts getting very paranoid and jealous, because she started getting up talking to other men, including the nice, shy, quiet man that had been watching myself and, other dancers throughout the night. Nice, shy, quiet man decided he liked her too. She's a very attractive Thai woman, very attractive, beautiful legs, exquisite shoes, lovely figure, beautiful face, long hair, bleached blonde, very pretty girl, and very intelligent, but very broken, even though she hides it by being bolshy and bossy and pushy. She even had no, that was the other man, had a t-shirt that said boss. Anyway, so I recognise a trauma survivor when I see one, right? Same modus operandi. Charlie's drinking my tea. Bit gross. I've got to drink that tea, but oh well. She seems to quite like tea. I'm not sure it's good for birds. It's because of the caffeine in it. It's enough out of you, Charlie. Just having a wonderful morning, eating my toast now. So anyway, I observed this woman. She was a very nice woman, but she didn't treat the Indian man very nicely. And anyway, he went over to the bar and he's watching her obsessively, talking to other men, and I know what she was doing. So he starts getting very distressed and he says, I don't know what's going on. I said, what's going on? I said, is she's not the least bit interested in you. And I said, there's nothing wrong with you. Well, there is actually. He was jealous and he was insecure and he was needy. So he had a lot of things wrong with him. But I can't really judge based on one night out, right? But I said to her, there's nothing wrong with you. You've got a nice, kind face. You bought me the nice drink when she asked you to, which was very kind of you and generous. Or I can be a bitch too. And I said, there's something going on here. I said, she's not interested in you. I said, look at her. She doesn't even look back at you. There's no eye contact. She literally recoiled from you when you leant over to talk to her intimately. The body language. I said, don't let people use you like that, I said to him. He said, yes, she is using me. She's my friend. She came out with me this evening and now she's ignoring me and going to all these other men and making me buy drinks and it's awful. And I said, yes, it's awful. I said, but this is a lesson to you from Shakti, Shiva, Kali, you name, whatever God's running your universe, I said, for you to own your own authority and have some dignity. I said, why would you let some woman humiliate you when you can see she's not the least bit interested? I said, it's a bit cruel. I said, but she's a very nice woman. I said, but she's not for you. I said, and if she treats you like this when she's drunk, how do you think she will treat you when she's sober? And he looked at me. By this time it was nearly 1 o'clock in the morning. He thought about it. He said, I'm going to go home. I said, I think that's a very good idea. Anyway, as he got up, he went to say goodbye to her and she was literally recoiling from him like he's vermin. So she really did use him a fair bit from what I could see. Didn't even have the courtesy to say, bye, thanks for the drinks. Thanks for being nice to my new friends I've just made, It was a bit toxic. So as he's walking away, obviously showing signs of distress, the security guards walked him out because they thought he was being threatening. And you know what? It was escalating. There was a little bit of that flavour, They probably were watching on camera me telling him, like, really, what are you doing here? You're just being played for a fool. And I know how much that hurts because I was played for a fool by the certain personage. We won't mention his name again because we're not empowering that thing, that creature. But he's not the only one. I used to get played for a fool by a lot of the casual lovers I met there. They were really quite sick and evil and perverted, which is why I no longer engage with them romantically and have been celibate for 8 years because I had to shelve it. I'm not going to survive if I continuously get involved and have these little affairs with these men who are toxic and evil. It would have killed me. The 2015 thing that came to a head was part of that escalation of years of atrophy and cruelty and sadomasochism. It was ghastly. So anyway, Indian guy leaves. Kimmy sits on the brink of tears for the rest of the night. I stayed away because I thought, well, you've achieved your goals and I can't deal with that level of toxicity. Women can be vicious and cruel too. But I did say goodbye to her when I left because I actually felt a bit sorry that she was sitting there all on her own. Because she said to me in the beginning when she introduced herself to me, she said, why are you alone? I said, oh darling, I said, I come alone and I go alone, and in between I choose most of the time to be alone. I said, that is how I roll. And she nodded and understood that. And I think by the end of the night, she's sitting there all on her own. I think she finally got why I stay on my own, because it's less freaking stressful than dealing with idiots, users, abusers, and psychic vampirizing vermin. Like, he still psychic vampirizes me, and I haven't spoken to him in person except for him to say goodbye to me in over 2 years. We don't want attachments with people that can drain the soul out of you for years and years. Based on what? You had sex once, or maybe, I think it was twice actually, over the course of a couple of years. For what? That's pointless. Anyway, true love. I'm looking up at the trees, and they literally said, true love, Tanya. It is often pointless and heartbreaking and unrequited and sadistic and cruel, but it is what it is. I have the power to overcome that, and every day in every way I am overcoming it. So, Indian guy left, and I continue dancing wildly as I do. And the shy man that had been sitting watching for most of the evening came up to dance with me. He was nice enough looking, dark hair, very short, nice enough face, very Asiatic, sort of dark brown eyes, but with a slight slant to them. And I knew immediately he's from Afghanistan, just by looking at him. And I thought to myself, oh, I could be wrong, you know, can't be always 100% certain where someone comes from. And he hadn't spoken much yet, so I hadn't heard his accent. But he was just dancing in front of me and holding my gaze, eye gazing, and I'm holding his gaze. And I came out with it. This is where my psychic thing comes into play, which does scare people sometimes. So I smiled at him and I said, oh, you're from Afghanistan. And he looked at me and he said, yes, how did you know that? And I said, oh, your beautiful face, darling, your beautiful face. And even as I'm saying it, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You've just told him you think he's beautiful. Now you're going to have more fucking trouble than you can contend with, because you'll think that you're interested. And also, why are you telling people where they come from? They know where they come from. They don't need you to tell them where they come from. And I did this last week when I met the Ukrainian guy. I said to him, you look Polish. And he said, actually, I'm Ukrainian. I said, yeah. I said, close enough. So I do this, and it's a bit weird that I often pick up where people come from, you know. So anyway, so I danced with this Afghani. I didn't actually get his name. He didn't get mine. He'll probably find out my name though, because all the regulars, you know, will tell him, you know, gossip. I don't care. I've got nothing to hide or be ashamed of. I live my best life and I hurt no one, and I'm free, and it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So we danced, him and I, quite a bit, and he stood in front of me and grabbed my arm, so I wrapped my arms around him, which I found a bit dominating, forcing a cuddle from me that I didn't want to give. But in the context of the dance, I allowed it to happen. You know, it's harmless. Security guards were watching me like a hawk like this. Because they know I can snap with men. I can if I feel threatened, or I can shift. And that's okay. It's good that I feel a little bit protected there. And they were more watching me carefully, I think, because it's rare that I engage with men, any of the men that come there, including the regulars. And this guy being a stranger, it was even more unusual. So they're like, what the hell, you know? That's okay. He was a gentleman. Very nice man, actually, on the surface, because we don't really know what he's like when you get him back home. They very rarely remain a gentleman for very long, and some of them can turn quite vicious. So, and I'm conscious of this, right? So I thought, well, just keep dancing, have a lovely time. Anyway, it gets to like 2 o'clock, and the music the DJ was playing was very it devolved into some kind of music I don't like much, like house or something. Oh Christ, I got to get out of here. It was nearly 2 o'clock anyway, and I was really, really tired. I'd been dancing since just after 10. So 4 hours is enough for me. My body goes, mate, you're done. Go home, go to bed. So that was my intention, right? But so I went over, I said goodbye to Kimmy, the Thai girl. And I said goodbye to the Afghani man. He said, why are you going home? God, men are so freaking controlling, you know. I said, well, I'm going home because I've been dancing since 10 o'clock and now I must sleep. Oh, okay. Oh, what? But why you go? And, you know, so immediately I thought, note to self, control freak, wants to own everything about you, not a good sign. So I'm smiling politely. I'm very tired. Time to go. So I get out of the casino and I thought, well, I'm hungry, aren't I? Because I had the Hungry Jacks at lunchtime, and at night I didn't have any dinner. I just had, can't remember what I had for dinner last night. I just had a piece of toast with, I had a piece of toast. So I thought, oh, well, I'm hungry. I'll go and get some chips. 4 hours dancing off all my carbs and fat and dross and bodybuilding, heart attack inducing carbicide. And what do? I go straight and put more carbs into me. But anyway, so I walk up past Irish Murphys, and the band members from Ramjet were out the front, and they smiled, and I just walked between them. And I went and I ordered chips, and they came out very quickly. So I got these chips, and I tell you, those chips tasted like heaven. They were delicious. I thought, man, maybe that's why your mood's going all over the place. You're bloody hungry, you know. So I took my chips, and I walked back to the casino, and I sat out the front there. George wasn't playing his guitar, he wasn't there. But there were other homeless men that had acknowledged me and said hello. George isn't homeless, but there were homeless men in his spot where he normally sits. So anyway, so I'm sitting, I'm eating my chips, devouring them, thoroughly enjoying them, you know. And I thought, I wish I'd bought a large chips. I only bought a small one, and it wasn't quite enough. But I was like, man, you're fat enough already. You've got to just stop this, girl. So anyway, I devour the chips. And I just finished eating the chips, and I was sort of wiping my fingers. And I was thinking at that point of going home because I'm very, very tired. Next thing I know, I don't even know what kind of car it was. It was not really a four-wheel drive, but I think it was a four-wheel drive of some kind, but a modern looking one. I don't even know what it was. It's driving up Elizabeth Street going the wrong way, because Elizabeth Street is a one-way street that goes this way, and he's driving up that way, up this culvert that's there. And the homeless men yell out, "Mate, you're driving up the wrong road, you're going the wrong way, mate. It's a one-way street." So they got a shock too. And I'm looking at this car, and I hadn't registered what was going on. Next thing I know, I look to my left, and there's this young Maori woman with this tall man standing beside her, and she's screaming. I didn't see her get out of the car. I guess I must have been looking up at the homeless man, right? And I'm thinking, yeah, mate, yeah, there's driven up. I thought it was just some drunk driver, right? So the guy gets out of the vehicle, and he's full of tattoos, and he's really fucking savage and angry, and he's pacing outside the vehicle as if he's going to cross the road. And the homeless men are like, "Mate, don't come over here. You're drunk." They could see it, that he was drunk. He was off his head on something. And the young woman screaming, "I don't want you near me." And this tall man standing beside her, I don't know where he came from. I really don't. And he's standing beside her, and I thought she was with him. So I thought she was talking to the tall guy. So I look at him and I went and look at her, and I immediately go into Mama T mode, and I yell out to her, "Is that your boyfriend?" And she goes, "Oh," and she's pointing to the guy across the road. And the guy across the road makes like he's going to come over, and I'm standing there thinking, oh fuck. I thought it was a fight over two men fighting over her. No, it was worse than that. So anyway, crazy guy gets back in the car, continues to drive against the traffic. And I don't know what happened after that, because I'm focused on her. And I'm looking at her. I said, "Are you all right, love?" And she looks at me straight in the face in shock. She was in complete shock. And she said, no, I'm not all right." And so I walked straight over to her and the tall gentleman that was with her. I said, "Is she with you?" He said, "No." He said, "No." He said, "She just jumped out of the car and ran across the road. Didn't you see that?" And I went, "No, I didn't see that. I don't even know where you guys have come from." And he said, "Yeah," he said, "I saw it. She ran out of the car." And I said, "Did you, love?" She said, "Yes, I threw the brake on and I jumped out of the car." She said, "He's been torturing me all night." I said, "What?" And she starts crying. She's wailing. I said, looked at the guy. I said, "All right." I said, "Do you want to go to the police station and report him?" And now a lot of women in domestic violence won't report it, right? And she said, "Yes." She said, "This can never happen again." She said, "It's been going on all night." And she said, "I had to run for my life." I said, "How did you get out of the car?" She said, "I just threw the brake on and ran." I said, so I looked at her. I said, "You are a very brave woman, and I'm very proud of you." I said, "You saved your life tonight." And she nodded. I said, "I will take you to the police station. It's just..." Oh, Charlie just pooped all over me. Thanks, Charlie. I love you, Charlie. I'm not a pro art piece, Charlie. Ugh, poopykins. Anyway, I said to this, and I looked at this young woman. I said, "You're Maori?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I'm taking you to the police station." And the man that was with me, he said, "I'm coming too." He said, I'll help bring her too." He said, "But I don't know where the police station is." I said, "I do. It's in Adelaide Street." I said, "If it's still there, because I haven't had cause to go there in years, And I said, and to be honest, I hate them. I said, they've never done anything to support me when I was in very, very bad danger. I said, but we've witnessed her escaping. I said, this is very serious. And I said, it needs to be reported. And she said, yes, I want to report it, because she said, I have to. She said, he's never done this before. We've been together for 13 years, but she said tonight he was extremely violent. I said, all right, darling. So I had her tucked under one arm. I'm holding her. She had me in a vice-like grip under one arm, and the other guy had her left arm, and she held on to me, and we walked up from the casino, and I said, we have to cross here, the light's green, to go on the other side to go to Adelaide Street. And the guy was a bit confused. I said, we're crossing the street, we're going to the police station. Okay. He was a very kind, decent man. You know, there are earth angels in this world that you stumble across, even amongst the violence and the imminent feelings of threat and the orders of magnitude since the COVID regime, where people have gone completely fucking crazy and dangerous, and it's been building and building for months, and I've been very aware of it, that I am in real danger. Even when I go to the casino, I've felt the sense of imminent escalating, layering like a barrel of monkeys laying on top of each other, building and building. And I thought this had to do partially with my intuition and feelings about Dave, who, you know, as I said to you, is not in contact with me directly, and doesn't come to the casino anymore. So I can't really say he's stalking me anymore. And he didn't really stalk me in the past. He knew I was in love with him, and I think he just got off on it. You know, it was titillating and exciting to have some stupid female love you so much that she was so excited just to see your face peer in the crowd, right? Like a pathetic bitch I was. It's embarrassing is what it really is. But anyway, true love, right? True love, says the trees and the cosmos. So this was a timely reminder last night, this event, to remind me that by and large, most men now are dangerous and life-threatening. And if you go to bed with them, you might as well cut your whole body to pieces, because you're actually betraying your own body, mind and spirit to engage with them. You really are. That's not to say that all men are awful. Like that Earth Angel man last night, that was very kind and sweet. You know, it was a shining light of human decency. But it's a rarity. It's far more rarer than it used to be. Or maybe my trust levels have been completely decimated after decades of trauma. But anyway, we walk her to Adelaide Street Police Station, get across the road, we walk there, and I'm saying, I'm not even sure if it's still there, and I don't like going to the police station because they've never done anything to support me when I was in very real danger. I said, I nearly got killed a few times when I was your age, when I was young. And the man's just looking at me in shock, you know. I'm triggered. It's got so bad that I was fucking triggered taking an abuse survivor straight to the police station. I'm more triggered by the police than by the abusers. That says a lot, doesn't it, about the level of treachery I have endured in my life, and the systemic abuse as well. So anyway, we get there, we stand in front of the police station, and I thought it had automatic doors that they had to let you in. So I see a female police officer sitting at the desk at the back of the room entrance when you go in, and I'm waving to her thinking she has to open the door, right? She looks in shock, and anyway, the gentleman that was holding on to the Maori woman pressed this button green button, which I hadn't seen because I'm kind of a little bit, triggered. And we go in, and we go to the front desk, and the man that did the speaking, he said, we've brought this woman in. He said she's just jumped out of a car, and she wants to report that she's a survivor of domestic violence. Cop just looks at me, right? And she said, who are you? You have to give me your names. Didn't really want to give my name and phone number. I'm looking at the man because I'd just finished telling them on the walk up there that I don't really like police much and that they've betrayed me over the years when I was in desperate danger, strangled. So he didn't give his details, which I found interesting. Nice man, but had a reasonable fear of the police too, even though he hadn't verbalised it like I did. So I think, well, they're not going to take her and to support her unless I to give them my details, which is insane because I didn't actually witness her jump out of the car. I just saw her crying on the side of the street there outside the casino. So I said to the policewoman, I said, my name's Tanya Aarons, this is my phone number. She says, oh yeah, we have to have details because you're a bystander. I said, all right, fine. I said, she's in shock. She says she's been tortured all evening. I said, judging by what the state she's in and what we've seen, her jumping out of the car, I said, I believe her. The police officer looked at me and nodded. I said, I'm glad there's a woman on duty tonight. I don't know why I'm glad there was a woman on duty, because when I went to report my sexual assault that happened at Irish Murphy's with the detective Naismith, she told me to go home and take up knitting rather than go dancing in the night. Condescending, delegitimizing, marginalisation, disrespect, dishonour, because they're too fucking lazy to do their job and clean up the filth that was happening at Irish Murphy's. Now that was back, actually this time of year in 2015. And funny enough, it came up in my memories about all that treachery and disorder and disrespect that included Queensland Police malfeasance. So, happy fucking anniversary. Here we are, 8 years later, and I was riddled with anxiety to even bring that poor young woman there to report to the police, because I know how they delegitimise women survivors, including child sexual abuse, right? It's disgusting what goes on. So anyway, on the walk up to the police station, I said to this she was a beautiful girl. I said to her, I want to tell you something. I said, as I presented her to the cop as well, I said to her, this is very important, I want you to remember this. Tonight is the night you get your freedom. Finally get your freedom. I said, don't ever go back. She says to me, no, I won't, but we have a child together. And she starts weeping even more. I said, no. I said, Jesus Christ, I said, that's unfortunate. I said, but don't ever go back. I said, you move somewhere else where he can't find you immediately. I said, he does that to you once. I said, he will only ever escalate. I said, some men are like mad dogs. You just have to shoot them or put them down. I said, they're never going to be any good. Once they start with that violence against women like that, I said, it escalates until you're dead. Do you understand? And the kind man walking with us up the street, he said, yes, there's so many women being murdered now. So many women are being murdered by their partners. He said, it's horrific. And I looked at him, I thought, he gets it. I said, I'm sorry I've been a bit mean to you. I said, it's true. I said, you can't trust your own life with the man you lie in bed next to most of the time now? I said, it's horrific. He nodded. Anyway, as we were walking up to the police station, he actually said to her to stop crying, because men don't like it when women cry like that. They can't cope. So he said, oh, stop crying, love. And I said to her, no, honey. I said, you cry. You cry as long and as loud and as often as it takes. I said, you cry that man out of your system forever. And she clutched onto me and she leant her head on my shoulder and really cuddled into me. She was the most loving, sweet girl. I wanted to take her home to protect her, but I can't protect her. I can't protect anyone. I can barely fucking protect myself on my nights out. Even though I'm relatively safe at the casino and there's plenty of security, I'm well aware of how dangerous our society is devolving now. It's a hotbed of insanity and devolution. And my heart craves a beautiful, romantic, passionate, loyal, loving partner, and still yearns for this former lover who, for some mad reason, even though he was a bit cruel and offhanded and delegitimizing, shoving slut after slut after slut in my face and thinking it was funny and just being sadistic, I still love him. Why would you do that? Why would you love someone? If he treated me like that when we didn't even have a proper relationship, what would he be like if you lived with him? Probably violent too. So there is that. My psychiatrist said to me one time, he said, he lured you in with scraps of love and kindness, those few little scraps, and then ripped it away. He said, no wonder you were completely distressed and torn and in a state of flux and confusion for years, because you thought you'd finally met someone decent and loving and kind. Yes, I did. I met someone decent and loving and kind last night. The man who helped me escort that young woman to the police station. So they are out there, good men. There are good men, and I'm privileged to have met them, albeit briefly. Reminders to my psyche, my damaged, fucked up psyche, that there are still good men out in the world. So anyway, I told her also to never go back. She said she won't ever go back to that place, whatever that means. Must be where he lives. And naturally she worries about her child. And this is the clincher, right? This is what happens. Mothers with children want so much to give their children stability that they maintain connection with the ex, and the family courts enforce you to allow your children access to their fathers, even though you know in your heart, mind and body and spirit that they're dangerous and not fit to be around your children. I lived like that for years. Every time my children went to their father, I ate my own liver for the first few years of our separation, because he was so vicious, so very vicious to me. Not so much physically, but mentally, emotionally and financially. I feared for my children's safety when they were with him. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I already was a complex trauma survivor from my own prejudicial childhood. So I know what men are capable of when they haven't got a regular root in the family home, and how toxic and evil they can be, unleashing their pent-up fucking lusts and hatred on our babies. I know. I survived that. So on a happy note, the female police officer takes this young woman in, and she turned and she looked at me with this look of just, I want to cry. Pure aroha nui. Great love, aroha nui. She didn't say that, and I didn't say it, but there was this moment that passed. I'm handing her like a defunct, betrayed, despoiled bride to a police officer that I don't trust. And I'm thinking, what have I done? Have I actually made her life even fucking worse now? But she needed to report it. She said she'd been tortured for several hours, and you need to report that. The cop just looks at me and shuts the door, right? Oh my God, I hope she's trained well, and I hope she's kind, because fuck me, those bastards are capable of tipping you right over the edge into suicide. So anyway, I hand her over, and there was this look that passed, and I nodded, and I left with the gentleman. And we get out of the police station, we start walking back to the casino. I had to bend over and do up my shoe, because I had my beautiful sandals that are, like strappy, they tie up in front, So he looks at me, he said, well, that's our good deed for the night. And I looked at him, I said, yes, I said, it was very kind of you what you did for that woman, and I very much appreciate it. And I said, I was honour bound to get involved too. I said, because I've been there, I know what it's like. And I said my husband was very emotionally and mentally and financially cruel too, and I said it did escalate into him trying to get me killed. And I said, and you know what? I said, I didn't even report it, which was the hugest mistake I ever made in my life, because if I had reported it, I would have had my house, my business, my company cars, and he would have probably gone to jail. But I was so afraid for my children, because the attacker that he employed knew where I lived and was a family friend, that I feared for my children's safety as well as my own. I thought I'll just get away from it, let it go, just get away from it. And I should have got in my car, taken my children and my pussycats, and driven to the other side of the earth, and just completely started a new life under a new identity and never looked back. And my life would have escaped decades and decades of cumulative trauma and horror, from which I'm still in recovery from. All right? So yes. I'm a very powerful, strong, loving woman, and I honour that spirit inside that kept me alive against all odds many, many times. So we get to where the taxi rank is, and we didn't even swap names. He would have heard my name because I gave it to the police station, but he didn't tell me his name, and it's okay. It's just an event, ships that pass in the night. And he said, I'm going to catch a taxi now and go home. And I said, yeah, that's all right, mate. I said, I'm parked under the Maya Centre, I'll be all right. And so he goes running off to catch a taxi, which I knew, the way he ran off, he was actually quite distressed, that gentleman. Even though we helped him, we did do the honourable thing, we were kind, he was distressed too. And so off I went down to Elizabeth Street, going past the homeless men again, and they said, oh, you're going back in for some more, are you? I think they thought I was gambling. And I went, no, mate. I said, I'm going home. It's the end of my night. I'm tired. And they nodded. So they would have been aware that I walked off with the young Maori woman. Anyway, that was the end of my night. Got home safe and sound. Climbed in the bath, took off my makeup. Sat there and it hit me. I thought, fuck. All day yesterday, I had been so emotionally heightened and anxious with the sense of impending threat. And I actually thought it was to do with my anxiety about, having the skin cancer, stitches out, and anxiety about money, and anxiety about all sorts of things, the COVID regime. I had no idea that I was actually being warned by Spirit that there was going to be an actual danger event that I was not participating in. I wasn't a victim of it per se, but that I would be a bystander and that I would have to take appropriate action. So there is that. So now I'm learning not to question my intuition, and I'm still glad I went out, and I'm still glad that I was there and present when that happened, because I was able to support this young woman. But by the gods, as I said to the gentleman that helped me bring her to the police station, I said, yes, we did our good deed for the day. I said, but let's hope we're not rewarded by having the same thing returned to us in our own crises, because I've been through quite enough in my lifetime. And he said, oh God, yes, I agree with that. So nice, loving, kind man, very tall. He looked actually like Lebanese or Greek background, or maybe Turkish background. He had that sort of Mediterranean look to him, but I could be wrong. But very tall man. And anyway, he was an earth angel in the night, and so was I. And I'm pleased to report that the anxiety and the imminent threat and the fear that's been building in my psyche for months actually had nothing to do with Dave, for a change. Not that Dave has ever really been overtly threatening to me, but that sense of imminent expectation, intuitions of expecting to see him, which have been wrong. I've been quite wrong in recent months. That's probably a good thing. It means that energy's finally leaving, evaporating like steam on a hot pavement. And I'm meeting nice men now. Like the Afghani man last night did seem very sweet. I'm wary because, and this is a terrible thing to say, it's not their fault. I'm a trauma survivor too. But most Afghani men are refugees who've been through that horrific war in Afghanistan. So they have severe trauma issues. And I'm a little bit wary because men with severe trauma issues, by and large, can turn on a dime and be very violent. And that's a judgment that is a little bit unfair by and large, because not everyone's like that. But I'm wary. I'm just wary. And he was wary of me too. He actually would come and dance with me and look at me, and then he'd run away and freak out a little bit, and then he'd come up to me again. And at one point my friend Luke came up behind us, and the Afghani guy said, who are you smiling over my shoulder at? I said, oh, just a friend of mine. And Luke went like that, because Luke's on my Facebook, right, and knows how I constantly write that I'm hoping to meet my one true love, a man who's decent and loyal and faithful and loving and kind. And he probably thought, oh, she's finally met someone. Hallelujah. She can stop whinging about not having a partner and being frightened and alone and isolated, because she's finally found someone. Please don't fuck this up, Tanya. Well, I fucked it up. I always fuck it up, because from the cumulative trauma in the background I can't trust. I have no trust. I'm incapable of trusting. Even if, for argument's sake, if Dave turned up tomorrow and said, Tanya, I do love you and I would like to make it work. Let's go out, let's talk about things. Let's start, hit the refresh button, let's start again. I would have a hellish time even trusting in that. And because I know it's a fantasy, it's not likely to happen, it's not a problem, right? It's really not a problem. But yesterday was intense, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. I danced so wildly because I'm time fighting, space banditing against my own cancers. So there is that. It's a beautiful day, people. Have a look around my garden. An absolutely glorious day. It's a bit hot again. But it's a glorious day, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the love that I still curate preciously in my chest, with my kintsugi'd heart held together by spiritual gold and duct tape and wishes, hopes and prayers for a better life. And I have zero trust in other humans, but I have trust in myself, that my intuitions, even though if they are a little bit not quite pinpointed exactly, are close enough to be an accurate enough warning signal or guide. Because that was so powerful what happened last night, and so unexpected. It happened so quickly. I'd literally just finished my chips. I had just posted on Facebook that I was outside sitting eating chips, and then within half an hour that girl had leapt out of the car. I had run to her aid. The gentleman and I had walked her to the police station, deposited her there, and walked back. All that happened in half an hour. So quickly. Your life can change on the turn of a dime in seconds. And that's a very humbling, terrifying thought. But I've been there. I've been through it when my life changed in seconds. So, who you barkies at, bye-bye? Anyway, it's Saturday. To my Jewish people out in the multiverses, Shabbat Shalom. I lit the other thing that was unusual, I haven't lit them for months, was yesterday, Beauregard. Yesterday I was watching Esoterica, which is one of my favourite podcast shows about magic and mythology, spirituality, on YouTube, Dr. Justin Sledge. And he's had another gentleman called Zevi, and they were giving talks. They give talks now on the Zohar, which is a Jewish mystical text for Kabbalah. So I enjoy those. I enjoy listening to them. I'm not an observant Jew anymore. Obviously, I'm dancing on Friday nights, wild as I can, have done for years. But I'm still a Jew in my heart. So I was watching that Zohar discussion on the Zohar and enjoying it. And then it got to sundown. It was actually just getting dark, and I thought, I'm going to light my Shabbat candles tonight, even though I'm going dancing. I'm going to honour the Shabbat by lighting the candles, which I haven't done for months. I've actually just about run out of candles. I'll have to buy some new ones, a new packet. But I don't, months will go by that I haven't lit the candles. And so I thought to myself, it's unusual that I want to light the candles when I know I'm going dancing wildly and, my wild spot in the den of iniquity at the casino. It's a bit hypocritical to light your candles when you're not observing the Shabbat anyway, and you're dancing with wild heathens and Christians and non-Jews. Like, why bother? I thought to myself. But then the positive angel on my right shoulder said, you bother, you light those candles, it'll do your heart good. So I did. I lit the candles and I said the bracha, and I didn't have kosher wine to light, to have the blessing. But I had a glass of non-kosher ordinary wine, and I didn't have challah, so I didn't worry about any of that, but I did have some wine. And I sat there and I was putting on makeup and getting ready to go out, and I thought, you know what, life is not so bad, life is good. So I'm glad I lit those candles, and I had put a prayer out to God, thanked him for sustaining me and gifting me with more time on this planet and the potential to find a true, deep, authentic lover, partner, husband, although I don't want to ever marry again, but life partner. And I thought, he's coming. That man that is worthy of my love and my light and my fight to stay alive on this planet and my fight advocating for other humans on this planet on various issues like domestic violence, child sexual abuse, the COVIDian cult, my fight for other human to have their divine right to live in their own body autonomy and to have free speech and to be wild and joyous and carefree. The right partner will honour my love, my light, my fight, and respect and honour my connection with the Holy One and God and all manifestations, the benevolent, loving, protective, blessed, guiding, ennobling, strengthening, healing ones. That man that's coming will respect and understand me and love me with a powerful love that is easily as powerful and as authentic as my own love has been for my former lovers / enemies. I can only hope and pray that the next time I fall in love and bring a man into my life, that he will never, ever, ever turn into an enemy and will hold me up with deep, deep true love. And do you know what? After decades of trauma, there's a part of me that's still afraid of even that, even afraid of allowing a real love, because I will always be waiting for the shoe to fall, for it to turn toxic and ugly, like the last love affair did, very quickly in the piece. I choose to believe that Dave did love me, however briefly though, because he certainly did keep coming to the casino and keep a watchful eye on me. And maybe that was designed to hurt me, I don't know. Maybe Karen's right, maybe they were wanting me to suicide. But he did continuously cycle back to me over the course of the last 9 years. And it's really only in the last 12 months. Oh, when did I last see him? Somewhere. I was driving to the casino. It was July, so it was 7 or 8 months ago. That he stopped. He had stopped for several months. No, that's not true, because the button pushing on Facebook, Drumming Circle, no, he hasn't stopped. He keeps an eye on me from a long distance via the internet. And it's absurdist and nonsensical and ridiculous. But as the trees and the blue sky and that big butterfly that was fluttering around me before will tell you, true love is for the birds, for the gods, for the angels, for the fae, and for human hearts to grow from or grow through, to blossom, to unfurl exponentially, to delight in, to hold on to that tiny fragment of hope in a world gone mad, in a world gone zombie apocalyptic, in a world broiling in its own destruction. That love we shared, however briefly, has been something I have held on to against my own wisdom and logical mind. My emotional mind has cleaved to it as almost a holy grail. So, God's bless. Have a beautiful day. The Tanya is and always will be the Tanya. A bit broken, a bit squidgy, a bit kintsugi'd, a bit crazy to the uninitiated. But always, always, always Mama T, and my highest expression of love that I can calibrate from the shockwaves and disaster and horror that I have endured on this planet for almost 58 years. Look at this, there's hardly any toast left. Little varmint. Charlie, when I say I love you, I mean it, okay? I love you and I mean it. Toast stealer. God's bless. Have a beautiful day, people.